Truth.
Welcome to Trusting the Truth with Samuel Tolley, where we view the world through the lens of Jesus Christ. We do not view Jesus Christ through the lens of the world. How you doing? This is Samuel Tolley. Today's topic on trusting the truth is defund and defang the police. You know, back after the tragedy of George Floyd, we got these politicians talking about defunding the police. And I've seen so many people running around, yeah, let's defund the police, particularly black folks, unfortunately. And, you know, it amazes me that people have no foresight. They don't seem to understand what's going on. You're going to defund the police and replace them with what? They were talking about, well, let's defund the police and replace them with social workers. So you're going to send a social worker to a domestic dispute situation? Have you lost your mind? I mean, police don't even want to go to a domestic dispute situation. Folks' emotions are all through the roof. They're not thinking logically. They're thinking emotionally, irrationally. They're upset with the person whom they love or did love. They don't care about you. You're going to send counselors and social workers to go look at gang situations or crime, or you're going to be like, or I guess one of the tools they have with the defunding the police is hiring all these attorney generals that don't give a rat's behind about crime. That, I know particularly in California, that they're not even going to come out if it's less than $1,000. And what has happened? You have a lot of businesses going out of business. You have a lot of business locking up everything. And then you're getting all these flash mobs just destroying stuff. I was in California over the past weekend, and there was a flash mob in the Santa Anita Mall. I mean, you're going to go in a mall and tear up a store, stealing a bunch of stuff. Then you're going to run out the mall and go jump in a car. I mean, this stuff is happening all the time. And some of these folks say, well, the insurance is going to pay for it. Well, who pays for the insurance? I mean, number one, the store owner insurance rates will go up. But not only that, the average Joe, my insurance rate, your insurance rate, they're going to go up. When we're trying to be law-abiding citizens, not doing anything wrong, trying to toe the line, trying not to get speeding tickets or moving violations or other things that would cause our rates to go up in our car insurance. And Lord knows that we try to protect our homes so it doesn't burn down or fire insurance increases. But when the stores are getting looted and robbed, prices go up. Everybody's price goes up. If the store is taking a bunch of losses, they got to pay for more security. They got to pay more insurance fees. And then with this ongoing inflationary situation, they got to pay more for the product. Who ends up paying all that stuff? You and I, the consumer. So these politicians, when they were sitting up there yelling and screaming about defunding the police, they were only thinking about, they were thinking about two things. They're trying to placate the ignorant and, just trying to garner more votes by placating the ignorant. Knowledgeable people that understand what's going on would have never went for that nonsense or never will. I want to show you a news clip. And listen to this woman, this congressperson, Cori Bush. I want you to listen carefully to the logic or the lack thereof, sleight of hand she puts on when she was confronted with the fact that she wanted to defund the police and yet and still have her own private security. Now, this congressperson paying for private security, where does she get the money from? she get the money from you and I, or the constituents in St. Louis, in Missouri. She gets the money from the folks that she's supposed to represent, and she's going to tell them folks that what, you expect me to be killed? I'd be better off dead, or I can't do the work. Watch this. This is amazing.
Congresswoman Cori Bush, she is, of course, one of the most vocal supporters of the Defund the Police movement. But when it comes to her own personal security, she feels much differently. If you recall, she said this in 2021.
You would rather me die? Is that what you want to see? You want to see me die? You know, because that could be the alternative. I receive death threats. I'm going to make sure I have security because I know I have had attempts on my life. So if I end up spending $200,000, if I spend 10 more dollars on it, you know what? I get to be here to do the work. So suck it up, and defunding the police has to happen. We need to defund the police and put that money into social safety nets.
Yeah, so Joe, there she was talking about spending money on her own personal security. She's still doing it because her latest campaign filing shows she spent a total of $30,000 and gave that money to her husband for private security services. So there's two things going on here. A lot of this money is going to her husband, and also her comments on defund the police versus her own spending on private security.
Amazing. Amazing. Defund the police, except not for me. And then I'm going to take money and pay my husband, who is like the Hunter Biden of law enforcement, has no experience in actually protecting people. This is incredible. Congresswoman Bush should resign or be ousted from Congress. This is unacceptable to spend that kind of money for your own protection when you won't protect the people of St. Louis, who she represents. St. Louis is one of the most dangerous cities in the country, guys.
Yeah, that's right. You know, and you got to consider the fact that police can be looked at as security for you and me, all of us, the rest of the country. So there's that fact, too. Joe Conch.
Absolutely amazing. So what did Cori Bush says? You would rather me die? She's paid to represent her constituents. Folks elect her to look after their interests. So in her mind, their interest is that they should have no police, but make sure she gets paid, and also have private security. And at the same time, the private security is her husband, who should be protecting her anyway. But in this case, he gets $30,000 of money that the public pays her. That's amazing, folks. It's absolutely amazing. So she would be better here doing the work. And my question is, what work is she doing for the folks of St. Louis, Missouri? Or better yet, what is wrong with you people electing somebody like this? I mean, this is the slam bam, thank you, ma'am, bamboozle. And these folks, and I'm talking about the voters, I'm talking about these people that allow this kind of nonsense to happen, should cut it out. Get rid of her. Get rid of everybody. I mean, it's ridiculous. This woman doesn't give a rat's behind about her constituents. Now, she works in Washington, D.C. You know, when I opened up the show, I had a picture of a lake and a silhouette of a policeman on the lake. And that picture is from my community. Let me show you a couple more pictures of where I live. Now, I have this lake about a mile from my house. It's a man-made lake. There's two of them. And we have this nice park. And also, this park is clean. It stays clean. Now, I don't live in a gated community, so it's not like the public couldn't get to it if they want to. But I live in a community where people care about the community. I don't have graffiti and crap in my community. Now, some people say, oh, you must live in an all-white neighborhood. No, I have every ethnic group there is in my community. All of us, Black, Asian, Hispanic, white, you name it, we're here. But all of us like to take care of our community. And also, this is a community where the public can carry firearms, and we do. Well, this is the state of Arizona. So for you folks in California and states like that, I can't help you. But we have police that are responsive too. We believe in having law enforcement, and we want the law enforcement to do their job. And they do. And also we have a public that wants to do its job, and we do. We look after our community just like the law enforcement looks after our community, because we want a decent place to raise our children. And I'm not saying that crime doesn't exist here. Sure, there's situations where people would have crime, I'm sure. But I think people will think twice before they try to break in somebody's house. And I think they also think twice before they try to hijack somebody in their car. But Congressperson Bush and everybody else in Washington, D.C., there's another level of stupid going on, because in many cases, the police have been defunded and defanged. So let's look at some defunding results in our nation's capital. This is an article written by Vivek Saxena. DC carjacking tops 900 carjacks. Juvenile offenders account for 2 in 3 arrests. Now, this is we're talking about 900 so far in the year 2023. Newly released data from DC's Metropolitan Police Department shows that there have been 917 plus carjackings in the area this year alone. Moreover, of at least 917 carjackings that were reported this past Friday, 245 of them have been solved. So less than half the carjackings have been solved. Probably, less than a third. Get my calculator. Let me see if I can do some quick math. Math was never my strong suit. Let's see here. Shoot. I'm embarrassing myself. Okay. Anyway, forget it. I won't do that. Anyway, leading to the arrest of 162 criminals, 64% of them juveniles. The data can be viewed, it says. The publication of this data comes only days after an FBI special agent, of all people, was carjacked at gunpoint on Wednesday. Can you imagine this? I gotta clear this thing out. Business. Okay, here we got the total. I want to get this information. 17. That's the total. And got 245 part. 26.72% of the carjackings have been solved in Washington, D.C. I need to calculate. Like I said, math was not my strong suit. So it says officers were called to the 100th block. Oh, excuse me, I want to back up again. Say this again. The publication of this data comes only days after an FBI special agent, of all people, was carjacked at gunpoint on Wednesday. This is fascinating. So the FBI is getting carjacked. I've heard Congress people have been carjacked. The FBI, the ones that's, hunting down grandma that was at the house on January the 6th, and the FBI who's chasing after mothers that are complaining against school boards, the FBI who doesn't appear to have any kind of problem with all the folks coming across the border, you know, they're in Washington, D.C., they're getting carjacked. It's amazing. Officers were called to the 100 block of 12th Street East, Northeast, close to Lincoln Park, around 3:45 p.m. This is in broad daylight, folks, for a carjacking. The stolen vehicle has been recovered, D.C. police said, and was found in the 1000th block of 15th Street Southeast about 25 minutes later at 4:10 p.m. According to station WRC, the victim, a federal agent, reported 2 suspects took their vehicle, the D.C. police said to the station. 2 suspects carjacked the FBI at gunpoint. But we defunding the police. We're doing a good thing. Not much is known about the suspects, though the authorities have offered a reward of up to $10,000 to anyone who can help them solve the case. Unfortunately, in this day and age, when you get something like this, that means they're black. Because these Democrats, they don't identify black criminals who have done a whole lot of crap. So they'll say, we don't know much about the folks. If it was a white dude, they'd have said it was a white guy with blonde hair and blue eyes. I'm just being real. Ironically, given the timing, the carjacking occurred only days after Georgia Representative Mike Collins, a Republican, introduced a resolution condemning D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser and other local officials for doing nothing about the city's crime epidemic. Crime in Washington, D.C. has reached a breaking point. Violent crimes, robberies, homicides, and motor vehicle thefts are all up by a staggering amount since last year, Collins said in a statement. That is why I introduced a resolution condemning the District of Columbia's leadership for their failure to address the crime epidemic plaguing the city. What is the resolution going to do? I mean, okay, you're mad. We're going to talk about it. We're going to say, oh, look, what is it going to do? I want to know. They have a duty to protect not only the citizens in their communities, but Americans from all over the country visiting the capital and have failed to do so, he added. But it's not just carjackings. BizPac Review recently reported that D.C. is also facing a spike in homicides, but a decline in the number of homicide cases that have been successfully solved. D.C. is close to breaking a 20-year-old record for the deadliest year in the district. Wow. Excuse me. In 2003, D.C. saw 248 homicides. The crime has gotten out of control. Excuse me. I'm not seeing the end of the paperwork here. Let me back up here a second. Oh, golly. Statement. The crime has gotten so out of control, businesses are closing their doors and leaving the city. Local station WSA replied last month. Yes, even admit the uptick in murders, there has been a downtick in solved cases, leaving the family members of deceased victims crushed. Okay. All right. So my paper isn't lining up here. Sorry about that. Ashaya Tamini's husband, Aquil, was stabbed in a dispute in January 2021 and died several days later. You just don't feel safe until they're caught, Tomini said. I could be walking past the person that killed my husband, according to the Associated Press. Natalie Mitchell wants justice for her son Morris, who was fatally shot in March of 2022, and closure for herself. A successful arrest of her son's killer, she said, doesn't bring Morris back, but it would help. The AP further noted that the percentage of homicides that DC's Metropolitan Police Department has solved has declined sharply. I wonder if that's because of the defunding. This past year, so much so that the city is on track to record its lowest clearance rate in over 15 years. Of course, it's because of the defunding. As of November 13th, only 75 of 244 homicide reportedly committed this year have been solved. Wow. Back to the calculator. So 244, 75, 30%. When coupled with the 33 homicides from 2022 that were solved last year, the clearance rate rose to a measly 45%. Well, I wouldn't go to 45% just yet. That would be the lowest rate dating back at least to 2007, according to statistics provided by MPD. Nationally, the average clearance rate tends to hover between 50 and 60%, said Rick Rosenfield, a professor of criminology at the University of Missouri, St. Louis. The AP wrote, the problem is that a low closure rate on homicides hurt police morale and the local community's trust in the cops, meaning is even less cooperation from the public. The whole process can kind of spiral down where the community doesn't trust the police that much anymore, or there's a lack of faith. Christopher Herman, the associate professor at John Jay College of Criminal Justice and a former crime analyst supervisor with the New York Police Department, told the AP there's much less cooperation between the community and the police. As once the police see a lack of cooperation from the community, some of them will kind of throw their hands up in the air and say, why should we care when no one in the community wants to help? He added. Why should they? And you know, it's sad we're reading a national average of 50 to 60%. This is crazy. That's what you get when you defund the police. What about defanging the police? You know, the reason why I said defang along with defund is because sometimes they just change laws to make the police ineffective. Sometimes, you know, we have communities that do such stupid stuff that the police can't do anything. And this is the case that happened in Oregon. Let's look at defanging the police as opposed to defunding them. Out of control Oregon decriminalized drugs. Now it's having second thoughts. You know, they decriminalize drugs. You just go buck wild in Oregon. They just decriminalized getting loaded. And they thought it was going to be a good thing. This is an article by Brandon Potler, a Daily Caller. Oregon residents voted in 2020 to decriminalize drugs. But just 3 years later, many businesses, citizens, and lawmakers are having second thoughts amid a spike in overdose death and drug use. They didn't think there were going to be an increase in deaths and overdoses? It's just like these folks in San Francisco. They're letting them have public, drug use. And I think there was an area in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia. I can't remember the name of the town the area, but I think they just recently shut that down because folks are just dying. More than 60% of Oregon voters polled think that Measure 110, which decriminalized the possession of small amounts of drugs in November 2020, has made a drug addiction, homelessness, and crime worsen, according to DHM research. You know what? This is funny when they say a small amount of drugs. Is the police going to be sitting around saying, well, gee, let's see. You're only allowed to have half an ounce of this, and it looks like you got 3/4 of an ounce. They're not going to do that. They're not going to be walking around with scales and stuff and trying to determine if you have enough dope or too much. This is stupid. So they're just going to say, forget it. Unless, of course, it's a big, warehouse of drugs or something like that. Okay, where was I? And 56% of Oregon voters polled believe that the measure should be repealed entirely. According to an Emerson College poll, a coalition of city, police groups, and prosecutors called on the state to recriminalize drug possession, and businesses who spoke to the DCNF say they're struggling with the drug crisis in the state. Really. This has really spread across Oregon. It is not just Portland's problem. Oregon House Republican leader Jeff Helfrich, a former Portland police officer, told the DCNF, "It's just out of control. I've never seen it this bad." Drug overdoses surged in Oregon between 2020 and 2022, and nearly 3% of Portland's residents left the city. I'm surprised only 3% left. In the same time frame, over 600 people died of overdoses in 2019. Now, this is before this law came into effect. And that number nearly doubled. Wow. 1,200 in 2022. Lord knows what it's going to be at the end of this year. The Republicans have a solution offered, but there hasn't been any talk about it because it doesn't seem like there's the will or the votes on the Democratic side. Helfrich told the DCNF, well, the Democrats, these are Democrat cities where this kind of crap happens. The public nudity and pooping on sidewalks in San Francisco and open drug dens there and in places like in Philadelphia and New York and stuff. This kind of nonsense. This is what the Democrats are offering the public. During the pandemic, it was amazing to me. They shut down businesses. They shut down people going to work. But what they left open was the liquor stores, the strip clubs, the weed houses. It seems like anything that solicits moral depravity, Democrats make sure you have access to. except for maybe cigarettes. They don't want you smoking cigarettes, but they love you to smoke weed, and they want to get you drugs. House Republicans in Oregon called on the legislature to address the crisis in multiple letters and have called for recriminalization of possession of drugs. Helfrich authored a letter on November 14 to Democratic Oregon Governor Tina Kotek and House Speaker Dan Rayfield, calling on Democrats to require treatment for drug users and to repeal Measure 110. I haven't heard people from leadership from the other side of the aisle say yes. You have to work together to fix this, Helfrich told the DCNF. Defund, defang. This is what you get, folks. Among voters polled in Oregon, 50% believe that Measure 110 makes the community much less safe. Really? According to an Emerson College poll, of the voters polled, 54% said that Measure 110 has led to increases in homelessness. One Portland police officer of 20 years who spoke under the condition of anonymity told DCNF that he's never seen it this bad. It's just open, blatant, hard drug use everywhere, the police officer told the DCNF. You get calls from businesses constantly, from residents, that there's people pass out in cars in front of their houses. People blocking the entrance to door. People pass out in front of your house. Excuse me. People blocking the entrance to doors to their stores. People standing on sidewalks when they're trying to go shopping or taking the kids to school, and just using and displaying visible signs of drug use. The police officer continued, the debauchery, it goes on and on. One owner of a Portland shipping container business said, people are buying more containers to store their large objects so they don't get stolen. The containers are used to store everything from home and garden furniture, tools, automobiles, tack, hay, grain storage, and farm equipment, according to Clackamas Containers. I guess that's the name of a business. Wow. It'll take about 2 hours to break into a container, but if your materials are just on your property, it won't take about 20 minutes. Clackamas container owner Alan Condor told the DCNF. Connor said some businesses in Portland proper have suffered a loss of patronage due to the laws around drugs and homelessness. People can actually put up tents in your front yard in Portland, Connor told the DCNF. Now, wait a minute. I didn't look that hard yet, but I'm wondering, are they saying that folks that don't live in your property can put a tent up in your front yard and you can't do nothing about it? I mean, wasn't that one of the places where they had these freedom cities or some mess where they took over a block? Now they're saying that homeless folks can just put a tent in your front yard? Now, why would you want to pay property taxes for some crap like that? Why would you want to even stay in a place like that? The owner of Vortex Detailing, who gave the DCNF his first name, Brenton, said he avoids Portland at all costs because of the crime and drug use of the city. Some homeless residents in Salem, Oregon's capital city, located about 45 miles southwest of Portland, said Measure 110 has made their lives worse. We've lost 8 to 9 friends in the past 2.5 years, 2.5 3 years. Wow, let me read this again. This writing is killing me. We've lost 8 to 9 friends in the past 3 years, if that. Malaya Saunders, a homeless Salem resident, told KGW8, an Oregon-based outlet. Okay, I guess this is a quote from a lady. Matthew Macerera, a formerly homeless man who now does outreach with the homeless, said Measure 110 has led to more problems for Salem. It's only caused harm, Macia told WG, wow, I'm off, KGW8. I'm having a hard time, folks. Maybe I need drugs. It has become something that I see every day in Salem. The number of people who are living on the side of the road is staggering. It used to be where there were a few people, and I would recognize some of them, but not anymore. There are just so many, and they do drugs out in the open for everyone to see. Downtown Salem has become unsafe for everyone, homeless or not. Sam Evans, former executive assistant at the Oregon Department of Transportation, told the DCNF, Democratic Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler, Kotek, and Raphael did not immediately respond to the Daily Caller News Foundation request for comment. You know, folks, it's amazing. They defund the police, they defang the police, and then they want you to keep voting for them. As we're approaching this new election season, I'm reading these articles or seeing plenty of articles talking about if Trump gets back in the office, we're going to lose our democracy. Or Trump gets back, he's going to be worse than Caesar or Hitler. I mean, the news articles are ramping up the fear mongering. They're ramping up the fear. You know, they're saying stuff. I'm hearing stuff like, well, you know, Democrats may be bad, but if Republicans take over, it's going to be worse. How can anything be worse than what's happening since Joe Biden's got in office? How can anything be worse? You tell me. Crime is up. Inflation is up. Property value is down. Our children lost a couple of years of education because of this pandemic situation. And then when they finally started trying to put people back in schools, a bunch of teachers didn't want to go to school. They wanted to teach from home. Not that they were teaching. You got states like Baltimore, Maryland, and Oregon who are not even teaching children. And Democratic politicians that want to stop all efforts to get school vouchers. And the minority kids are the ones that are suffering because all these politicians, they put their children in private schools. The same people that want to defund the police are the same people that want to keep minorities ignorant, dumb, and dependent. They don't want you to learn. They want you to be able to get drugs and be complacent. They want to anesthetize you and make you compliant. And then they want to scare you to death about climate change and prepare you to start finally submitting yourself to eating bug burgers. Things like that. They want to make you so that you are so dependent on the government that you cannot think that you can exist or live without them. Then we have the news media, the propaganda arm of the Democrat Party that keeps their hopes and dreams in your face all the time. You know, the news media and actors, they have a lot in common. I mean, both of them get paid to lie for a living. But the difference is actors only want you to believe who they pretend to be during the show. whereas the news media wants you to believe who they pretend to be and what they said long after the show was over. You know, they'll sit up in your face and stand in front of a burning building and tell you that it's a mostly peaceful protest. They'll sit over there and after reviewing the fact or seeing the fact that Joe Biden and his family is getting multi-millions of dollars from China, the Ukraine, and Russia for no apparent reason other than the fact that he's Joe Biden. And they'll say, there's nothing here to see. Whereas they will send the FBI to raid Melania Trump's underwear drawer. They will prosecute Trump all over the country. They will accuse him of stealing classified documents, whereas he was president when he took the documents, and Joe Biden took a bunch of documents when he was a senator and when he was vice president and stuck stuff in his garage next to his car. And they do nothing. And like I said, our FBI, you know, they're spending all this time trying to put Trump in jail and persecute women that are trying to protect their children from drag queen story hour and feeding our children with cross-sexual hormones, or they want to slam, patriotic fathers who stand against abortion up against a wall and raid their houses at 6 o'clock in the morning. Yet they're not doing a thing about the crime that's just tearing up the country, even to the point where members of Congress and members of the FBI themselves are getting attacked. There's nothing to see here. They don't care. That stuff's not important. What's important is to keep the illusion going on to make you think that they're in control and they're looking after your interests when they're looking the other way, and multi-millions of illegals are flooding across our borders, just taking over and invading this country right before our eyes. But we have no police, and we have no government that cares about us. They only care about us complaining about them, but they don't care to do what's right for the people. And of course, then we have to concern ourselves as whether, in fact, we can even vote these jokers out because of the possibility of machine fraud, ballot stuffing, and all kinds of things. You know, Joseph Stalin said that, you know, really it doesn't make a difference who does the voting. What makes a difference is who does the counting. And I think that there are many people in our country that have taken over the communist mantra. Hey, if we can control the counting, we can control anything. I mean, I live in the state of Arizona, and it took a week to settle the election for governor, not the presidency, the governor in this state. And you would think that in the year 2023, it wouldn't take a week, or 2022, it wouldn't take a week to settle an election. But with the kind of people we have running the state, the kind of people we have running the government, we're in vast trouble. The kind of people that want to defund the police and defang the police. So here's my recommendation. My recommendation is read the Constitution. Everybody should read the Constitution. Everybody should understand the Constitution. Everybody should teach their children the Constitution, because our government, local, national, federal, all of it, has to comply with the Constitution. It's a reason why they don't teach civics in school anymore. They don't want you to know the Constitution. They don't want you to know the law of the land. That is the Constitution. Everything sits under that umbrella. And if citizens know their constitutional rights and responsibilities, because you do have a responsibility along with your rights, then they can't bamboozle you. They can talk all the crap they want. They can have all the lying reporters say all they want. They can have all these politicians with their silvery tongues and their, sleight of hands. Try all the crap they want to crap, and it won't make a difference if you understand your rights. So, the first thing you should read is your Bible, and then the next thing you should read is your Constitution. You need to know the word of God, and you need to know the word of the nation. And you need to teach them to your children, both of them, especially the word of God. But then don't neglect the Constitution. The only way we're going to be able to stop people like Cory Bush from being in office, Joe Biden from being in office, this person who calls herself the governor of this state of Arizona, is to understand the Constitution by masses of people and to grab back control of our government, to grab back control of our communities. That's what we have to do, folks. People like me that are talking and trying to alert folks, all we can do is our part. The rest is up to the individual, each and every last one of us. When you have people that want to anesthetize you or just let you get doped up, they're all for letting you get drugs like in Portland. They decriminalized marijuana here in Arizona. You have to think about it. Why? Why are these people so vested in just having an anesthetized society? It's not just tax revenue. They want you compliant. They want you to not be able to stop them from their plans. If you're so busy being in a stupor, you won't be able to stop them from doing whatever the heck it is they want to do. Your responsibility as a citizen is to protect the country from politicians. What do you think the Second Amendment was for? It wasn't for hunting. It was for in case our country went completely stupid, that the citizens could rise up and grab back control. And you will never grab control if you don't understand the Constitution. So that is what's important, folks. You need to learn this book. It's not difficult. You need to understand the Bill of Rights. You need to understand the amendments. You need to take a little bit, chew on it every day, digest it, and then learn your state constitution. It falls under this one. So if your state constitution is wacky, it cannot be superseded by this one. Learn your Constitution. Learn your Bible. Trust God, but don't be stupid. And we'll get through this thing. And trust and help your local police. We need law enforcement. We need people that are going to stand in the gap for us. That nonsense about, let me tell you this before I go. I had to go to a funeral this past week. And, it was a family funeral. So I was talking to one cousin and there was another cousin. And I told his cousin, that I was in Arizona. And the other cousin, this female, she said, "Oh, you're a Republican. You got guns?" And she said, "Oh, you got guns? You're in Arizona. You must be a Republican." And I said, what does one thing have to do with the other? Well, Republicans have guns. Democrats don't have guns. Well, number one, I know that's a lie. I know a lot of Democrats that have guns. I know a lot of Democrats that want to have guns, but they can't have guns because they're felons. Now, let me tell you this about me. I'm of the opinion, and I believe that everybody, if you committed a crime, you do your time. And if you do your time, you need to be made whole. And being made whole is not being put in a situation where you cannot vote or own a gun. you're being a partial citizen. You're still being punished for whatever you did. Now, I think that the idea of correction, they call it a correction facility, should correct the person. And so they should be able to come out. They should be able to own guns. They should be able to vote. They should be able to participate in society to the fullest. Having said that, if there's a crime they committed, or there ain't no way in the world that these people should have guns or be able to vote, then don't let them out of jail. But getting back to my cousin, I said, well, you're right on both cases. I am a Republican and I do own guns. So what? I said, a gun is a tool. It's just like a plunger. No one wants to use a plunger. But when crap starts flowing back up off the toilet and it's threatening to run into your house, you need a plunger. And you don't want to be running to the store, and you certainly can't call 911 or call some plumber and waiting for them to show up to stop the mess. A plunger is a tool, and so is a gun. So our Second Amendment rights, they fall under this Constitution. And there's people that want to take away our Second Amendment rights. This idea that we're going to wait for the police to come and help us. Folks, things happen fast. If something's going to happen, by the time the police get there, it has already happened, whatever it is. So it's better that the person has taken care of the situation that they have to, i.e., use that plunger, if they have to stop that stuff from flowing. But hopefully you won't have to ever go that route. Nevertheless, I know it seemed like a big rabbit trail. It wasn't. Time gave me the time to break that down. But we must not defund. We must not defang. We need to trust the law enforcement. But we, the citizens, need to stay on top of everything because we're the ones in charge. And you will never understand that you're in charge unless you understand your rights and responsibilities under the Constitution. Think about it. Remember it. Live by the word of God. And then, if you're an American citizen, the Constitution. This is Sam Tolley, and I'm out.